A weapons tech who nobody saw. A 3,820-meter question that stopped the room cold. And a missing ranger whose final shot could start a war, or end one. Mara Voss never wanted to be noticed. She buried herself in calibrations, wind tables, and rifle configurations while soldiers laughed around her like she wasn't there. Then an officer asked the wrong question. Or maybe the right one. Because the moment she answered, clinically, precisely, impossibly, everything changed. Now strangers watch her. Files appear on her bench. And somewhere across an ocean, a sniper she's never met is waiting for her voice. Before we begin, follow this story to the end. Like this video. Comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Because what happens next, you won't believe. The maintenance bay at Redstone Flats smelled like gun oil, scorched metal, and burnt coffee that had been sitting too long on a hot plate no one remembered to turn off. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in that washed-out gray-green that made people look half dead even when they weren't. The kind of light that erased details, made faces forgettable. Mara Voss preferred it that way. She sat at the far workbench, shoulders hunched, hands steady as a surgeon's, torquing down the scope mount on a MK22 with a precision that didn't require thought anymore. Just muscle memory. Just silence. Around her, soldiers moved through the space like she wasn't there, laughing, shoving, telling the same tired jokes about last night's poker game or who got smoked in PT that morning. Swear to God, Alvarez ate shit so hard the DI almost cried. Nah. You should have seen Ramos try to explain why his rifle was in 3 pieces. Mara didn't look up, didn't smile, didn't exist. That's how she'd survived 2 years in this place. Civilian contractor, weapons maintenance specialist, the kind of job that kept her hands busy and her face out of sight. She arrived before dawn, left after dark, ate alone behind Hangar 7, where the wind cut sharp and the only company was the occasional fox scrounging through trash bins. People didn't ask questions when you were invisible, and Mara had built her entire life on not being asked. She torqued the final screw, checked the alignment with a bore-sighting laser, logged the serial number in her tablet. Efficient, clean, unremarkable. Yo, Voss! She didn't respond immediately. Let the voice hang there. Corporal Denny, loud, broad-shouldered, the kind of guy who thought volume equaled authority. Voss, you got a second? She set down the torque wrench. Looked up slowly. What do you need? Denny grinned, leaning against the bench like he owned it. Alvarez says you can tune an M110 to shoot sub-MOA at 1,000 yards. That true? Depends on the barrel, the ammo, and whether your shooter's any good. Laughter rippled through the room. Alvarez, a wiry kid with a baby face and too much confidence, shot Denny a look. Told you she doesn't sugarcoat. Damn, Voss, ice cold. Mara's expression didn't change. She reached for the next rifle in the queue, a beat-to-hell M4 that looked like it had been dragged through a sandstorm. You want it accurate or you want it fast? Both. Then get better ammo and stop letting Alvarez zero it. More laughter. Alvarez flipped her off with a grin. Denny shook his head, still smiling. All right. Respect. He started to walk away. Then someone else spoke. What about 3,820 meters? The voice came from behind her, low, calm, not joking. The laughter died. Mara's hand stilled. She didn't turn around, didn't need to. She already knew who it was. Major Ethan Cross, field officer, combat deployments in places no one talked about. The kind of man who didn't ask questions unless he already knew half the answer. Denny glanced at Cross, then at Mara. Sir? Cross didn't repeat himself, just waited. Mara set down the rifle, slowly, turned on her stool. Cross stood 5 feet away, arms crossed, eyes sharp, not testing her, studying her. 3,820 meters, he said again. Hypothetically, is it possible? The room had gone quiet. Even Alvarez shut up. Mara met Cross's gaze. Possible? Yes. Probable? No. Why not? She didn't blink. Because at that range, you're not shooting a target. You're shooting a mathematical equation with 1,000 variables. Wind speed at 3 altitudes, humidity, barrel temperature, Coriolis effect, spin drift, And that's assuming your optic holds 0, your ammo is match grade, and your shooter doesn't flinch. Cross tilted his head. So it's impossible. I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? Mara's voice stayed flat, clinical. I'm saying the difference between possible and probable is whether the shooter understands that they're not in control. The bullet is. And if they fight that, they'll miss. If they accept it, she paused. They might get lucky. Silence. Cross's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition. Or maybe suspicion. How do you know that? He asked. Mara turned back to her bench, picked up the M4. Because math doesn't lie. She felt his gaze on her back for another 3 seconds, then he walked away. But the room didn't go back to normal. Tools moved quieter. Voices stayed low. And when Mara glanced at Denny, he wasn't grinning anymore. He was staring at her like he'd just realized she wasn't background noise. She hated that look. 4:47 hours. Hangar 7. Mara sat on the edge of a loading dock, legs dangling, coffee going cold in her hands. The sky was still black, stars fading into that pale gray that came before dawn. Wind cut across the tarmac, sharp and clean, carrying the smell of jet fuel and distant rain. This was her time. The hour when no one needed anything. When the base was still asleep and she could breathe without being watched. She took a sip. Grimaced. The coffee tasted like burnt rubber, but it was hot, and that was enough. Footsteps. She didn't turn. Didn't need to. You're up early, Cross said. Mara stared at the horizon. So are you. He stopped beside her. Didn't sit, just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking out at the same nothing she was. I looked you up, he said. Mara's jaw tightened. And? Not much to find. Civilian contractor, 2 years, clean record, no flags, no complaints. He paused. No background in ballistics. I read manuals. Manuals don't teach you how to think like a sniper. She didn't answer. Cross shifted his weight. The question I asked yesterday? It wasn't hypothetical. Mara's fingers tightened around the cup. I know. You know. You don't ask questions like that unless someone already tried. Cross was quiet for a long moment. Then, his name was Jonah Cade, long-range specialist, best I ever saw. 3 weeks ago, he went dark during a recon op in the Caucasus. No comms, no extraction, just gone. Mara finally looked at him. You think he's alive? I think someone wants us to think he's not. Why? Cross pulled a folded map from his jacket, opened it, pointed to a valley marked in red ink. Because 2 days before he disappeared, someone took a shot from this ridge. Target was a convoy carrying a high-value asset. 1 round, 3,820 meters, clean kill. Mara stared at the map, at the terrain, the elevation, the wind patterns she could already see in her mind. You think Cade took that shot, she said. I think someone did. And I think whoever it was knew exactly what they were doing. Cross folded the map. Which is why I'm asking you. I'm not a sniper. No, but you think like one. He met her eyes. And I need to know if that shot was supposed to succeed, or if it was supposed to send a message. Mara's pulse kicked. She set down the coffee, stood. You want me to analyze it. I want you to tell me if it was luck or intent. And if it's intent, Cross's expression went hard, then Jonah's still out there, and someone's using him as bait. What? 9:30 hours. Secure analysis room. The room was small, windowless. A single table, 2 chairs, and a laptop displaying topographical data that made Mara's chest tighten the moment she saw it. Cross stood behind her, arms folded. Everything we have is on that drive. Terrain scans, weather reports from that day, trajectory analysis from our best ballistics team. Mara didn't touch the keyboard yet, just stared at the screen, the ridge, the valley, the impossible distance. Who was the target? She asked. Classified. Then how do you know it was intentional? Cross leaned over her shoulder, tapped a key. A photo appeared. A man in a suit, mid-stride, surrounded by bodyguards. A single hole in his forehead, clean, precise. Because that's not a lucky shot, Cross said. That's a fucking statement. Mara zoomed in, studied the wound, the angle, the lack of secondary damage. No fragmentation, she murmured. No tumble. Full penetration. She pulled up the wind data. Cross-referenced the elevation. Wind was gusting 12 to 18 knots, variable direction, humidity at 67%. Her fingers moved faster. He would have had to calculate drift at 3 separate altitudes, adjust for temperature drop, compensate for… How long would that take? Mara paused. For someone like Cade? Maybe 30 seconds. And for you? She didn't answer. Cross pulled up another file. This is what our team came up with, best estimate. 93% probability of success given optimal conditions. Mara read the report, frowned. They're wrong. How? She pointed at a line of code. They calculated spin drift based on standard bullet weight, but at that distance, even a half-grain variance changes everything. If Cade was using hand-loaded rounds, he was. Then this number is off by at least 0.4 mils. She pulled up a different calculation, ran it again. Probability drops to 78%, maybe lower. Cross leaned in. Meaning what? Mara met his eyes. Meaning whoever took that shot knew it might fail, and they took it anyway. Silence. Why? Cross asked. Mara stared at the screen, at the man with the hole in his head, at the distance that shouldn't have been possible. Because failure was part of the message, she said quietly. 1300 hours. Main Bay. Mara returned to her bench, but the room felt different now. Smaller. Tighter. People watched her, not openly, not obviously, but she caught the glances, the way Denny stopped mid-sentence when she walked past, the way Alvarez didn't crack jokes anymore. She sat down, reached for the next rifle. A folder was sitting on her bench, plain, unmarked, but heavy. Mara opened it. Inside, detailed schematics of a custom rifle build, barrel specs, scope configurations, ammunition load data, handwritten notes and margins, calculations that looked familiar, too familiar. Her stomach dropped. She flipped to the last page, a single line, written in neat block letters. You're not the only one who reads manuals. Mara's hand started shaking. She looked up. Across the bay, near the far exit, a woman stood watching her. Civilian clothes, dark jacket, calm eyes, their gazes locked. The woman smiled, then turned and walked out. Mara was on her feet before she realized it, moving, fast. Voss, Denny called after her. You good? She didn't answer, shoved through the door, into the hallway. The woman was gone. But taped to the wall beside the exit was a single note. Conference Room C, 1400 hours. Mara ripped it down, crumpled it. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. 1400 hours. Conference Room C. The room was empty when she arrived. Just a table, 4 chairs, a projector humming softly. Mara stood in the doorway, heart pounding, every instinct screaming at her to turn around. She stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. The projector flared to life. A single image filled the screen. Jonah Cade. Military photo, lean face, hard eyes. The kind of man who looked like he'd seen too much and survived anyway. Then the image changed. A ridge, a rifle, a prone figure barely visible against the rocks. Mara's breath caught. The woman's voice came from behind her. Beautiful, isn't it? Mara spun. The woman stood in the corner, arms crossed, face unreadable. Up close she looked older, 40s maybe, scars on her hands, the kind you didn't get from office work. Who are you? Mara demanded. The woman smiled faintly. Someone who appreciates precision. What do you want? To see if you're worth the attention. Mara's fists clenched. I don't know what you think You corrected Cross's team in under 5 minutes. The woman stepped closer. You identified variables they missed. You understood intent without being told. She tilted her head. That's not reading manuals, Mara. That's experience. Mara's pulse hammered. I'm a tech. So was Jonah. Silence. The woman placed a tablet on the table. These are his calculations. From the shot. See if you can find the flaw. Mara stared at the screen, at numbers that looked perfect, flawless. But something was wrong. She saw it immediately. The windage, she whispered. It's off. By how much? 0.6 mils. The woman's smile widened. Exactly. Mara looked up. He missed on purpose. Did he? The target's dead. Is he? Before Mara could respond, alarms shattered the air. Red lights, sirens, boots thundering in the hallway. The woman moved toward the door, calm, unhurried. Wait, Mara started. The woman paused, looked back. Jonah's waiting for someone to understand, she said. The question is, are you ready to answer? Then she was gone. Smoke poured into the room. Shouts echoed. Mara stumbled into the hallway, choking, eyes burning. Soldiers rushed past her. Radios crackled. Breach in Sector 4. Unknown hostile. Lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. Mara pressed against the wall, heart slamming, lungs screaming. Through the smoke, she saw Cross running toward her. Voss, you all right? She nodded, couldn't speak. He grabbed her arm. Who was in there with you? I don't know. Describe her. Mara's vision swam. Dark jacket, scars. She knew about Cade. She knew about the shot. Cross's face went white. Fuck. What? He pulled out his radio, barked orders, then looked at Mara with something she'd never seen in his eyes before. Fear. That was Elena Volkov, he said. Former FSB, ghost operative. And if she's here... He swallowed. Then Cade's not the target. Mara's knees buckled. Cross caught her. Listen to me. Whatever she showed you, whatever she said, it's not over. She's testing you. And if you passed... What? He met her eyes. Then you're next. What? 1845 hours. Isolation wing. They moved her to a secure room. No windows. One door. Armed guards outside. Mara sat on the edge of a cot, staring at her hands. They wouldn't stop shaking. Cross brought her water, coffee, food she couldn't eat. Talk to me, he said. She told him everything. The folder. The woman. The calculations. Cross listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. The flaw you found, he said finally. In Cade's math. Yeah. Our team missed it. Yeah. How? Mara looked at him. Because they were looking for success. I was looking for intent. Cross rubbed his face. Jesus. What does Volkov want? I don't know, but she doesn't show up unless something big is about to break. He stood, paced. Cade's been dark for 3 weeks. No ransom demands, no proof of life, just silence. And now this. You think she has him. I think she wants us to think she does. He stopped. But that shot, the one you analyzed, if it was a message, he trailed off. Then Cade's trying to tell us something, Mara finished. Cross nodded slowly. And Volkov wants to know if we're smart enough to hear it. Mara stood, walked to the wall, pressed her forehead against the cold concrete. I'm not a soldier, she said quietly. I fix rifles. I run numbers. I stay invisible. Yeah, and that's exactly why she picked you. Mara turned. What? Cross met her eyes. Because you see what others don't. You think like Cade. And if there's a message hidden in that shot, he stepped closer. You're the only one who can decode it. Mara's chest tightened. I can't. You already did. Silence. Cross pulled out his phone, showed her a map. We traced Volkov's last known location, Tower Complex, Caucasus region, same area Cade went dark. Mara stared at the screen, at the distance, the elevation. You want me to go there? No, I want you to finish what you started. He zoomed in. But because somewhere in that building, Jonah Cade is waiting, and if we don't move fast, he's dead, or worse. Mara closed her eyes, breathed, opened them. What do you need me to do? Cross's expression didn't change, but something in his voice did. Relief. Tell me what Cade's really saying. 23:30 hours. Command center. The room was packed. Officers, analysts, satellite feeds on every screen. Mara stood at the center table, hands flat on the surface, staring at data that made her head spin. Cross stood beside her. Walk us through it, she pointed at the ridge. The shot Cade took. 3,820 meters. Target confirmed dead, but the windage was off by 0.6 mils. Meaning he missed. Meaning he adjusted wrong. On purpose. She pulled up weather data. Wind that day was gusting 18 knots, variable. But Cade would have known that. He would have compensated. Unless he didn't want to. Exactly. Mara zoomed in. He deliberately miscalculated, which means the target wasn't the point. An analyst spoke up. Then what was? Mara traced a line from the ridge to the convoy route. The bullet's trajectory. If you follow the flight path, accounting for the intentional drift, it passes directly over this structure. She tapped the screen. A tower. Isolated. High security. That's a Russian military installation, someone said. No. Mara pulled up schematics. It's listed as military. But look at the power consumption, the satellite uplinks. This isn't a barracks, it's a black site. Cross leaned in. You're saying Cade was telling us where he is. I'm saying he was telling us where they want him. Silence. Mara straightened. Volkov didn't kidnap him. She recruited him. And that shot? It was his application. Cross's face went hard. Then why test you? Mara met his eyes. Because she wants to know if I'll follow. The room erupted, voices overlapping, radios crackling. Cross held up a hand. Quiet. Everyone stopped. He looked at Mara. If you're right, then Cade's not a hostage. He's a willing participant, and Volkov's building a team. Of snipers, Mara said. People who think like him, who see the math, who understand the message. And if we go after him? Then we're walking into a trap. Cross didn't hesitate. Then we spring it. 2:00 hours. Briefing room. Mara sat alone, staring at a photo of Jonah Cade. He looked tired, human, not like a ghost. The door opened. Cross entered, sat across from her. You don't have to do this, he said. Mara didn't look up. Yes, I do. Why? She finally met his eyes. Because I understand him, and that terrifies me. Cross said nothing. Mara set down the photo. I built my life on being invisible, on not mattering, and now, her voice cracked, now people are watching, and I can't go back. No, Cross said quietly. You can't. Silence. What if I'm wrong? Mara whispered. Cross leaned forward. Then we fail, together. Mara stared at him, at the honesty in his face, the trust she didn't deserve. She nodded. Okay. Cross stood. Wheels up in 4 hours. Get some rest. I won't sleep. I know. He left. Mara sat in the dark, hands shaking, heart pounding. Somewhere across an ocean, Jonah Cade was waiting. And for the first time in her life, Mara Voss wasn't invisible. She was terrified. 5:00 hours. Tarmac. The cargo plane's engines roared. Wind whipped across the runway. Mara stood at the base of the ramp, duffel bag over her shoulder, staring at the open hatch. Cross approached, handed her a radio. Encrypted channel. Stay close. She took it. What if Volkov's watching? She is. And? Cross's expression was grim. Then we give her a show. Mara climbed aboard. The ramp closed. The plane lifted into the black sky. And Mara stared out the window, watching the lights of Redstone Flats disappear below. She thought about Cade, about the shot, about the woman who smiled like she knew a secret. And she realized something. This wasn't about saving Jonah Cade. It was about proving she could. Because once attention finds you, there's no way back. Only forward, into the dark. The plane's cabin rattled with turbulence. No lights except red emergency strips along the floor. Mara sat strapped into a jump seat, surrounded by tactical operators who didn't speak to her, didn't acknowledge her presence. She was cargo, a consultant, not one of them. Cross sat opposite, reviewing satellite feeds on a ruggedized tablet. His face lit blue in the darkness. Every few minutes he'd glance at her, checking, making sure she hadn't changed her mind. Mara kept her hands folded in her lap, kept her breathing steady. But inside, her thoughts spiraled. She'd never left the country before, never been on a military transport, never willingly walked toward danger instead of away from it. 2 days ago, she was adjusting scope mounts and eating cold sandwiches behind Hangar 7. Now she was flying toward a black site in the Caucasus because a ghost operative thought she was worth recruiting. The absurdity should have been funny. It wasn't. One of the operators, call sign Reaper, square-jawed and silent, leaned toward Cross, spoke low enough that Mara had to strain to hear over the engine noise. "Sir, intel update. Russian military activity increased in the sector. Could be routine. Could be they know we're coming." Cross didn't look up. "Volkov wants us there. She'll make sure we arrive." "That's what worries me." Cross finally met his eyes. "Then stay sharp." Reaper nodded, sat back, checked his rifle for the 4th time. Mara watched the ritual, the way his hands moved with absolute certainty, the way he didn't think about it, just did it. Muscle memory born from repetition and survival. She understood that. The comfort of routine. The safety of predictability. But this, flying into hostile territory with people who barely trusted her, this was chaos. And chaos didn't have patterns, didn't have rules. Cross's voice cut through her thoughts. "Voss?" She looked up. He held out the tablet. "Volkov sent this 20 minutes ago." Mara took it. The screen showed a single image, a rifle scope reticle centered on a distant figure, too far to identify. But the rangefinder in the corner read 4,200 meters. Below the image, a message. "Tell Mara the wind is shifting. She'll understand." Mara's stomach dropped. She zoomed in on the reticle, studied the crosshairs, the holdover, the windage adjustment. "She's showing off," Mara said quietly. "Or warning you." "Same thing." Mara handed back the tablet. "She wants me to know she's better, that whatever I figured out about Cade's shot, she's already 3 steps ahead." Cross frowned. "You think she's bluffing?" Mara stared at the dark cabin, at the operators who'd kill without hesitation if ordered, at the life she'd left behind that already felt like someone else's memory. "No," she said. "I think she's telling the truth, and that's worse." The plane banked hard. Mara grabbed the seat frame. Her stomach lurched. Outside the small porthole window, she glimpsed mountains, black silhouettes against a sky just starting to gray with false dawn. They were close. Cross stood, gripping overhead straps for balance. "Listen up. We drop in 15. Insertion is covert, no gunfire unless compromised. Objective is recon and extraction if possible. Voss stays with me at all times. Questions?" Silence. "Good. Check your gear." The operators moved with synchronized efficiency. Magazines, radios, night vision. Mara sat frozen, watching them transform from men into weapons. Reaper stopped in front of her, held out a tactical vest. "Put this on." Mara took it. The weight surprised her. Ceramic plates, pouches full of equipment she didn't know how to use. "I'm not—" "You're with us. You wear it." Reaper's voice was flat. Final. "Plate carrier stops rifle rounds. Maybe. Won't stop you from doing something stupid, but it's a start." He walked away before she could respond. Mara struggled into the vest. Straps too tight, buckles that didn't make sense. Cross helped without asking, adjusting, and tightening until it sat right. "Breathe," he said. "I am." "No, you're holding it. Breathe." She exhaled, tried again. The vest felt like a cage, like commitment. Cross checked her straps one last time. "You good?" "No." "Honest, I like that." He handed her a radio earpiece. "Channel 3. You hear gunfire, you hit the ground and stay there. Understood?" Mara nodded. "Say it." "Gunfire. Ground. Stay." "Close enough." The plane's engines changed pitch, descending. Mara's ears popped. Her hands found the rifle Cross had insisted she carry, an M4 she had no intention of firing. Just wait. Just theater. The loadmaster appeared, signaling. 2 minutes. Operators lined up at the ramp. Calm. Ready. Mara stood last in line, legs unsteady, heart hammering against the plate carrier. The ramp cracked open. Cold air rushed in. The roar became deafening. Then they were moving. Down the ramp. Into the dark. Boots hitting rocky ground that Mara couldn't see. Hands guiding her. Voices in her earpiece. Clear left. Clear right. Move, move, move. She stumbled, caught herself, kept moving. The plane's engine screamed as it lifted away, leaving them in sudden, absolute silence. Mara's eyes adjusted. Mountains surrounded them, close, oppressive. A valley floor littered with loose scree that shifted under every step. Cross appeared beside her. Stay close. Watch where they step. They moved in single file. No lights, just shapes in the darkness. Mara focused on the operator in front of her, watching his feet, matching his pace. Her breath came too fast, too loud. After 20 minutes, they stopped. Reaper raised a fist. Everyone froze. Mara heard it then. Voices, distant, speaking Russian. Cross pulled her down behind a boulder, pressed a finger to his lips. Through her earpiece, 2 hostiles, patrol, 300 meters north. ROE? Avoid. We're ghosts. The team melted into the rocks. Mara pressed her back against cold stone, barely breathing. The voices grew louder, boots on gravel, a laugh, the click of a lighter. She could smell cigarette smoke. The patrol passed within 50 meters, so close she could hear one of them coughing, complaining about the cold. Then they were gone. Silence. Clear, someone whispered. They moved again, faster now. The valley narrowed. Cliffs rose on both sides. At the far end, silhouetted against the lightening sky, Mara saw it. The tower. Concrete and steel. Brutalist architecture from another era. No lights, no movement. But somehow alive. Watching. Cross signaled. The team spread out, taking positions. Mara crouched beside him, behind a fallen boulder, staring at the structure. That's it? She whispered. That's it. Looks abandoned. It's not. Cross raised binoculars, scanned the windows. Thermal shows heat signatures, at least a dozen, maybe more. Where's Cade? Unknown. But if Volkov's here, he is too. Cross lowered the binoculars, looked at her. You still think he came willingly? Mara studied the tower, the isolation, the silence. I think he came because he didn't see another way. Way out of what? She didn't answer, couldn't. Because the truth was she understood exactly what drove someone to disappear, to choose silence over questions, distance over exposure. Cross's radio crackled. Thermal signature on the roof, single target, armed. Mara looked up, saw nothing but shadow. Spotter, Cross said, probably covering the approach. He keyed his mic. Can you get a shot? Negative. Angle's wrong, too much exposure. Then we wait. They settled into position. Minutes crawled. The sky shifted from black to deep blue. Mara's legs cramped. Her hands went numb despite the gloves Cross had given her. Then movement. A door at the tower's base opened. A figure emerged. Woman. Dark jacket. Volkov. Mara's breath caught. Cross tensed beside her. Volkov walked into the open ground between the tower and the valley entrance. Stopped. Turned directly toward their position. Raised a hand. Waved. Fuck, Reaper breathed. She knows we're here. Cross's jaw tightened. Hold position. Nobody moves. Volkov waited. Patient. Then she pulled out a phone. Held it up. Mara's radio crackled. Not the team channel. Her personal frequency. Volkov's voice clear as if she were standing beside them. Hello, Mara. I'm glad you came. Cross grabbed Mara's arm. Don't respond. Mara stared at Volkov's distant figure, at the casual confidence, the absolute control. I know you're listening, Volkov continued, and I know Cross is telling you to stay silent, but we both know that's not why you're here. A pause. You came because you need to understand, and understanding requires conversation. Silence. Cade wants to meet you. He's been waiting. Mara's hand moved toward her mic. Cross caught her wrist. No. She knows we're here anyway. That doesn't mean... Mara keyed the mic. Where is he? Cross swore under his breath. Reaper shifted position, rifle trained on Volkov. Volkov smiled. Mara could see it even from this distance. Clever girl, he said you would answer. She gestured toward the tower. Top floor, northeast corner. He's watching you right now through a scope you probably helped calibrate. Mara's skin went cold. She thought about every rifle she'd worked on, every scope she'd aligned, every weapon that passed through her hands on its way to someone she'd never meet. What does he want? She asked. The same thing you do, recognition. For what? Volkov lowered the phone, spoke into her own radio, amplified, echoing across the valley. For seeing what others can't, for being invisible until the moment you choose not to be. Her voice softened. For understanding that some shots aren't meant to kill. They're meant to wake people up. Mara felt Cross's eyes on her, felt the weight of the team's attention shifting. They were listening now, really listening. You know what Cade realized? Volkov continued. That precision without purpose is just performance, and performance for people who don't see you is slavery. She paused. But you already know that, don't you, Mara? Mara's hand tightened on the radio. I'm not like him. No, you're better, because you haven't broken yet. Volkov started walking back toward the tower. Come inside, alone. Let's talk about what happens when invisible people finally choose to be seen. The door closed behind her. Silence filled the valley. Cross pulled Mara's radio away. Absolutely not. It's a trap. I know. Then why are you considering it? Mara met his eyes. Because she's right. About Cade, about me. She pulled away from his grip. And because if I don't go in there, we'll never know what he's really doing. We extract him. By force if necessary. You can't extract someone who doesn't want to leave. Reaper spoke up. Voss is right. If Cade's turned, conventional extraction won't work. He'll resist. Could get messy. Cross looked between them. So what? We just let her walk into a building full of hostiles because Volkov asked nicely? No, Mara said. You let me walk in because it's the only way to finish what we started. She stood, legs shaking but voice steady. I analyze the situation, confirm Cade's status, find out what Volkov really wants. Then you decide. Cross's expression was granite. And if you're wrong? If they take you? Then you blow the door and get me back. Just like that. Just like that. Silence. The team waited. Cross's radio crackled with chatter from command, requests for status, demands for intel. He ignored them all, stared at Mara, searching for something, certainty, courage, maybe just sanity. Finally, you get 15 minutes. After that, we're coming in. Mara nodded, started removing the plate carrier. Keep it, Cross said. And this. He handed her a small device. GPS tracker. We'll know where you are. She took it, slipped it into her pocket. What if they search me? Then we'll know that too. Mara walked toward the tower. Each step felt wrong, exposed, like walking naked into a spotlight. She forced herself not to look back, not to check if Cross was still watching. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open, stepped into darkness. The smell hit her first. Gun oil, concrete dust, something metallic. Blood, maybe. Old blood. Her eyes adjusted. A hallway stretched ahead. Bare bulbs every 10 meters, doors on either side, all closed. Footsteps behind her. Mara turned. A man stood there, late 20s, tactical gear, Russian markings. He gestured with his rifle. This way. She followed, no choice. He led her down the hall, up a stairwell, past more closed doors, more silence. The building felt empty and crowded at the same time, like people were hiding just out of sight. They stopped at a door marked with Cyrillic she couldn't read. The guard knocked twice. Waited. Come in. Mara recognized the voice. Volkov. The guard opened the door. Mara stepped through. The room was small. A desk, 2 chairs, maps on the walls, and Volkov standing by the window looking out at the valley where Cross and his team hid. They're very well trained, Volkov said without turning. I count 8 heat signatures. Impressive discipline. She looked at Mara. But you already knew that. Mara stayed near the door. Where's Cade? Direct. Good. Volkov gestured to a chair. Sit. I'd rather stand. As you wish. Volkov moved to the desk, opened a laptop, turned it toward Mara. The screen showed live video feed. A man sitting in a chair, lean, scarred, eyes that looked through the camera rather than at it. Jonah Cade. He's alive, Mara breathed. Of course. I told you he was. Volkov tapped a key. Audio connected. Cade's voice filled the room. Mara Voss, weapons tech, Redstone Flats, 2 years. Before that, he paused, smiled faintly. Before that, nobody knows. Just like me. Mara's hands clenched. What do you want? Cade leaned forward. To ask you a question. That shot I took. The one everyone thinks killed a target. He tilted his head. Who did it really kill? Mara's mind raced. The math, the trajectory, the intentional error. No one. The target was already dead. Cade's smile widened. How? Poison. Probably administered hours before. The shot was theater. Make it look like an assassination to cover the real method. And why would I do that? Mara stared at him through the screen, at the intelligence in his eyes, the careful control. Because you wanted people to look at the distance instead of the details, wanted them focused on the impossible shot instead of asking who had access to poison the target first. Silence. Cade sat back. Cross chose well. Volkov closed the laptop. Cade didn't defect Mara. He evolved. He realized that being the best sniper in the world meant nothing if he was just a tool for people who never saw him as anything more. She moved closer. So he became something else, someone who dictates the terms. A terrorist? An artist? Volkov's expression didn't change. And artists need audiences who understand their work. Mara's heart hammered. I'm not an audience. No, you're a collaborator, whether you admit it yet or not. Volkov pulled out a file, set it on the desk. Inside are names, targets, people who've committed atrocities and hidden behind bureaucracy, people who need to be removed but can't be touched through legal channels. You want me to help you kill them. I want you to help us hold them accountable, with precision, with purpose. Volkov opened the file, photos spilled out, faces Mara didn't recognize. Each one has been investigated, verified, and ignored by the systems that should have stopped them. Mara stared at the photos, at the clinical documentation, the evidence. This is murder. This is justice when the courts fail. It's not my decision to make. Then whose is it? Volkov's voice sharpened. The same people who kept you invisible, who let you fix their weapons and never asked your name? She leaned in. You know what you're capable of, Mara. Cade saw it. I see it. The question is whether you'll keep hiding or finally use it. Mara's breath came short. The room felt too small, too hot. I need to think. You have 12 minutes before Cross breaches this building. Volkov checked her watch. Choose quickly. Mara turned toward the door. The guard blocked it. She looked back at Volkov. What if I say no? Then you walk out. Return to Cross. Go back to being invisible. Volkov's expression was unreadable. But you'll always know you had the chance to matter, and you chose safety instead. The words hit like the punch, because they were true. Mara had spent years choosing safety, choosing silence, building walls that kept her separate from anything that could hurt her. And now those walls were crumbling, not because someone broke them, because she was standing on the edge, looking at what life could be if she jumped. Let me talk to him, Mara said. Face to face. Volkov considered. Why? Because I need to see if he's really free, or just traded one cage for another. A long silence. Then Volkov nodded. Top floor. But the guard stays with you. Mara climbed stairs that echoed with each step. The building felt like a crypt, all concrete and cold air and spaces meant to contain rather than shelter. The top floor opened into a single large room, windows on 3 sides. And there, by the northeast window, stood Jonah Cade. He didn't turn when she entered, just kept looking through the scope mounted on a rifle aimed down at the valley. They're getting restless, he said. Cross keeps checking his watch. Reapers moved position twice. They'll breach in 9 minutes. Mara stopped 10 feet away. I need to know something. Ask. Are you here because you want to be? Or because she gave you no choice? Cade finally turned. Up close, he looked older than his photo, tired, but his eyes were clear, calm. You think I'm a prisoner? I think you're a man who took a shot he knew would change everything. And I don't know if you're running towards something or just away. Cade smiled, sad. Honest. Volkov said you would be. He gestured to the window. Come here. Mara approached slowly. Cade stepped aside. Let her look through the scope. Through the optic, she saw Cross, saw the team, saw the tension in their postures, the readiness to move. What do you see? Cade asked. People waiting to save you. Or control me. He adjusted the scope slightly. Look at Cross. Really look. Mara focused, saw Cross checking his tablet, saw him gesturing, giving orders. He's preparing to breach. He's preparing to contain. Big difference. Cade stepped back. I spent 15 years taking orders, being the best, earning medals. And you know what I learned? His voice dropped. That excellence makes you valuable, not free, just more expensive to lose. Mara pulled away from the scope. So you disappeared. So I chose myself for the first time. Cade met her eyes. And now I'm asking if you're ready to do the same. Mara's radio crackled. Cross's voice. Voss? Status? She looked at the radio, at Cade, at the rifle pointed at people who'd risked everything to reach her. Her hand moved to the transmit button and stopped. Because somewhere between the maintenance bay and this moment, something had shifted. The question wasn't whether to go back, it was whether she could. Cade watched her, patient, understanding. They'll come for you, Mara said quietly. I know. They'll call you a traitor. Let them. And me? Cade tilted his head. That depends on what you tell them. Mara's finger hovered over the transmit button. 7 minutes left. Maybe less. She thought about Cross, about the team waiting in the cold, about the life she'd built on being no one. Then she thought about the names in Volkov's file, the atrocities, the silence, and she realized something terrifying. She wanted to matter, not to everyone, not to the world, but to herself. Her hand dropped away from the radio. Cade nodded slowly. Then we need to move. Now. Explosions rocked the building. Close, ground floor. Mara stumbled. Cade caught her arm. They're early. Damn it! Gunfire erupted below. Shouts. The building shook. Volkov burst through the door. They breached the east entrance. 4 minutes until they reached this floor. Cade grabbed his rifle. Extraction? Roof. Helos inbound. Volkov looked at Mara. Coming? Every instinct screamed to run back down, to find Cross, to explain. But the look in Cade's eyes stopped her. The certainty. The freedom. Where? Mara asked. Volkov smiled. Somewhere you can finally be more than background noise. More gunfire. Closer. Mara heard Cross's voice echoing up the stairwell. Voss, Mara! Her heart broke, shattered, reformed into something harder. She ran toward the roof access with Cade and Volkov. Behind her, Cross's voice faded under the sound of rotors beating air. A helicopter descending through early morning light. They burst onto the roof. Wind whipped. The helo touched down. Doors opened. Mara hesitated at the edge, looked back one last time. Saw Cross emerge from the stairwell, saw his face when he realized, saw the betrayal, the disbelief. He raised his weapon. Mara, don't! The words cut off as Cade returned fire. Not at Cross, at the doorframe, suppressing, buying seconds. Now! Volkov shouted. Mara jumped into the helo. Cade followed. The aircraft lifted. Through the open door, Mara watched Cross standing on the roof, watched him lower his weapon, watched him understand. She'd chosen. And there was no going back. The tower disappeared below. Mountains spread in every direction. The radio in her pocket crackled one last time. Cross's voice, quiet, broken. Why? Mara pulled the radio out, stared at it, then threw it into the wind. Cade sat across from her, said nothing, just watched her process. Understand. Accept. Volkov handed her a tablet. These are your targets. Study them. We move in 72 hours. Mara took the device with shaking hands, looked at the first file. A name, a face, a list of crimes that made her stomach turn. She thought about the maintenance bay, about being invisible, about fixing weapons for people who never saw her. Then she looked at Cade, at the calm certainty in his eyes. What happens now? She asked. Cade loaded his rifle. Methodical, precise. Now you decide if you're still just a tech, or if you're ready to become something more. The helicopter banked hard. Morning sun broke over the peaks, and Mara realized with absolute clarity that the woman she was yesterday was gone, burned away in the moment she chose to run toward the unknown instead of back to safety. Volkov leaned close, spoke over the rotor noise. Welcome to the real war, Mara, the one fought by people no one sees, until it's too late. Mara looked down at the tablet, at the faces of men who'd escaped justice, at the precision required to balance the scales. Her hand stopped shaking. For the first time in 2 years, maybe her entire life, she knew exactly what she was capable of. And that terrified her more than anything Volkov could say, because weapons in the hands of the invisible are just tools, but weapons in the hands of someone who finally chooses to be seen? Those change the world, whether anyone's ready or not. The helicopter touched down in a clearing surrounded by dense forest. No markers, no lights. Just coordinates Volkov had programmed into the pilot's GPS. Mara stepped onto frozen ground, legs unsteady, mind still processing what she'd done. Left cross on that roof, left everything. Cade moved past her, rifle slung, scanning the tree line with eyes that never stopped calculating. Volkov spoke rapid Russian into a satellite phone, her tone clipped and commanding. Within minutes, headlights pierced the darkness. 2 vehicles. Black SUVs with tinted windows. Move, Volkov said. They drove for an hour through mountain roads that barely qualified as roads. Mara sat in back, wedged between Cade and a man who hadn't spoken once. She kept replaying Cross's face, the moment he realized, the weapon lowering, not because he wouldn't shoot, because he couldn't, not at her. The guilt sat like concrete in her chest. Cade noticed. He always noticed. You're wondering if you made a mistake. Mara stared out the window at trees blurring past. Aren't you? Every day for the first month. His voice was quiet, matter-of-fact. Then I stopped counting days and started counting results. How many? Targets? 14. People who were supposed to be untouchable. War criminals, traffickers, men who bought their way out of consequences. He paused. All confirmed dead. All made to look like accidents or rival hits, no trail back to us. Mara's stomach turned. You're telling me this to make me feel better? I'm telling you this so you know what you signed up for. Cade met her eyes. Volkov doesn't recruit people who need convincing. She recruits people who've already decided. They just haven't admitted it yet. The vehicles stopped. They'd arrived at a compound, concrete bunkers built into the hillside, camouflaged and fortified. Military surplus, probably Russian, the kind of place that didn't appear on any map. Inside, the temperature barely improved. Bare bulbs, steel doors, the smell of diesel fuel and stale air. Volkov led them through corridors to a briefing room where a dozen people waited, all ages, all backgrounds. Some wore tactical gear. Others looked like academics. One woman couldn't have been older than 25. They all turned when Mara entered. Volkov gestured. This is Mara Voss. She'll be working the Kozlov contract. A man with a thick beard and scarred hands spoke up. His English carried a heavy Eastern European accent. She's the one from Redstone? The tech? Yes. She's never operated. Neither had Cade when I found him. The bearded man looked unconvinced. Cade was military, trained. This one fixes rifles. Mara felt heat rise in her face, the familiar sting of being dismissed, of being seen as less. She opened her mouth to respond, but Cade spoke first. Show them, he said to Volkov. Volkov pulled up a laptop, projected an image onto the wall. Mara's analysis of Cade's original shot, her calculations. The corrections she'd made to Cross's team's work. The variables they'd missed. She identified intent in under 5 minutes, Cade said. She understood what I was saying when trained analysts saw only data. That's not fixing rifles. That's thinking like a sniper. The bearded man studied the projection, grunted. Maybe, but thinking and doing are different. Then let's see her do it, someone else said. A woman. American accent. 40s, cold eyes. Volkov considered. All right, range test. Tomorrow morning. Mara, you'll demonstrate basic competency at 800 meters. Mara's pulse kicked. I've never shot past 400. Then tonight you learn. The room emptied. Mara stood alone with Cade and Volkov, feeling the weight of what had just happened. She'd crossed a line in that helicopter. Now she was being asked to prove she belonged on the other side. Cade led her to an armory. Walls lined with rifles in configurations she'd only seen in manuals. He selected one, a custom bolt action with a barrel she recognized as match grade. Handed it to her. Feel the weight, he said. Mara took it. The rifle was heavier than the M4s she was used to, more substantial, built for precision, not volume of fire. This is yours now, Cade continued. You'll learn it, break it down, rebuild it, sleep with it if you have to. By tomorrow you need to know it better than your own heartbeat. And if I can't make the shot? Cade's expression didn't change. Then Volkov was wrong about you. And you go back to being a tech, assuming Cross doesn't kill you first for defecting. The words hit like ice water, because there was no going back, not really. She'd burned that bridge the moment she ran. They spent the next 6 hours on a makeshift range carved into the hillside. Cade teaching, Mara learning. Not just mechanics, philosophy. The difference between aiming and letting the shot happen. Between forcing the trigger and accepting the moment. You're fighting it, Cade said after her 10th miss at 600 meters. You're trying to make the rifle obey. It doesn't work that way. Mara's hands were numb despite the gloves. Her shoulder ached from recoil. Then how does it work? You submit to the physics. Wind, distance, gravity. They're not obstacles. They're the equation. And you're just one variable. He adjusted her position. Stop thinking like a technician. Start thinking like the bullet. She tried again. Breathed. Felt the wind on her face. Calculated drift. Held at the apex of her breath. Squeezed. The target pinged. Center mass. Cade nodded. Again. They worked through the night. By dawn, Mara had fired over 200 rounds. Her hands shook. Her vision blurred. But she'd hit 70% at 600 meters. 50% at 700. 800 was still a wall she couldn't break through. It's enough, Cade finally said. Get some sleep. Mara collapsed in a bare concrete room with a cot and a single blanket. Her body screamed for rest, but her mind wouldn't stop. She kept seeing Cross, kept hearing Volkov's voice, kept feeling the weight of the rifle that was now somehow hers. 3 hours later, someone pounded on the door. Range, now! The morning was brutal. Gray sky, wind gusting, temperature barely above freezing. The entire compound turned out to watch. Mara stood at the firing line, rifle in hand, staring downrange at a target 800 meters away. The bearded man, his name was Victor, stood beside Volkov. 3 shots. 2 hits minimum. Standard protocol. Mara loaded, chambered, settled into position. The wind shifted. She felt it against her left cheek. Calculated, adjusted her hold, breathed, fired. Miss, low and right. Whispers rippled through the observers. Victor shook his head. Mara ejected the spent casing, loaded again. Her heart hammered, but she forced it down. Forced everything down except the wind and the distance and the mathematics of making metal fly true. Second shot. Hit. Outer ring. The whispers stopped. Victor raised an eyebrow. Mara loaded the 3rd round. This was it. Make or break. Prove she belonged or prove Volkov wrong. She thought about the maintenance bay, about being invisible, about every time someone looked through her like she was furniture. Then she thought about the names in Volkov's file, the atrocities, the men who'd escaped because the system protected them instead of their victims. Her breathing steadied. The wind dropped for just a moment, a pocket of stillness. She fired. The target pinged. Center mass. Silence. Then Victor started clapping. Slow, deliberate. Not bad for a tech. The others joined in. Scattered applause. Acceptance, however grudging. Mara stood, ejected the magazine, safed the weapon. Her hands didn't shake. Not anymore. Volkov approached. Adequate. Now comes the real test. She handed Mara a tablet. This is Dmitry Kozlov, former intelligence officer, trafficker, responsible for the disappearance of at least 40 women over the past decade. Authorities in 3 countries have files on him. None have prosecuted. He has protection, money, connections. Mara looked at the photo. A man in his 50s, expensive suit, predator's eyes. He'll be at a villa in Montenegro in 5 days, Volkov continued. You'll take the shot. Cade will spot. In and out. Clean. Why me? Mara asked. Why not someone with experience? Because you need to understand what this feels like before you're in too deep to walk away. Volkov's gaze was unflinching. Kill a man from 800 meters on a range and you're a student. Kill one who deserves it and you're something else. I need to know which you'll become. Mara stared at Kozlov's face, at the casual arrogance, the certainty that he was untouchable. What if I miss? Then he wins, and 40 families never get closure. Volkov turned away. You have 5 days to decide if you can live with that. The next 96 hours blurred together. Training, planning, intelligence gathering. Mara learned Kozlov's routines, his security detail, his mistress who visited Tuesdays and Thursdays, the villa's layout, sight lines, escape routes. Cade drilled her relentlessly. Not just shooting, movement, concealment. What to do if things went wrong. How to disappear if separated. The 1,000 details that separated operators from corpses. On the 3rd night, Mara found him cleaning his rifle in the armory. She sat down across from him. How do you live with it? She asked. The killing. Cade didn't stop working. I don't think about them as people. I think about them as problems, variables in an equation that needs solving. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that lets me sleep. He looked up. You want me to say I feel guilty? That I lie awake haunted by faces? I don't, because every target I've eliminated was someone who'd already eliminated their own humanity. I'm just correcting the math. Mara felt cold. And if you're wrong, if the intelligence is bad, then I live with it. Same as doctors live with patients who die on the table. Same as soldiers live with civilians caught in crossfire. You do the best you can with the information you have. Everything else is paralysis disguised as morality. That's a convenient philosophy. It's a survival philosophy. Cade set down the rifle. Listen, I'm not going to tell you this is noble. It's not. We're killers, professional, precise, but still killers. The difference is we point ourselves at people the system can't touch. Does that make it right? I don't know, but it makes it necessary, and that's enough for me. Mara left the armory more conflicted than when she'd entered. The 4th day, Volkov called her into the briefing room, alone. You're having doubts, Volkov said. Statement, not question. Mara didn't deny it. I left Cross because I wanted to matter, not because I wanted to kill. Those aren't separate things. Not here. Volkov pulled up a file. Photos appeared on the screen. Women, young, scared. These are 5 of Kozlov's victims, recovered from a trafficking network in Albania, all dead now. Overdoses, suicides, infections from untreated wounds. She switched to another photo. A girl. Couldn't have been more than 16. This is Anya. Kozlov personally recruited her, promised her modeling work. She was found in a drainage ditch 3 months later. Mara stared at the girl's face, at the hope in her eyes, the trust. Local police arrested him, Volkov continued, had witnesses, evidence. Then the case disappeared, files sealed, witnesses recanted. Anya's family was paid 50,000 euros to stay quiet. She closed the laptop. The system didn't fail, Mara. It was purchased, and Kozlov bought his way free. So tell me, is killing him murder? Or is it the only justice Anya will ever get? Mara's throat was tight. I don't know. Yes, you do. You knew the moment you got on that helicopter. You're just afraid to admit what you're capable of. And what's that? Volkov leaned forward. Becoming someone who matters. Someone who doesn't ask permission to make the world slightly less cruel. She stood. We leave in 6 hours. Decide by then. Mara returned to her room, stared at the ceiling, thought about Anya, about the maintenance bay, about Cross saying her name on that roof. She thought about being invisible, and she thought about what it would mean to finally be seen, not by everyone, just by the people who mattered, the ones who'd been failed by every system meant to protect them. 6 hours later, she was on the helicopter with Cade and 3 others she didn't know, flying toward Montenegro, toward a villa on a cliff, toward a man who thought he was safe. They inserted after midnight, boat to shore, 2 kilometers overland. Mara carried the rifle she'd qualified with, plus a suppressed pistol she prayed she wouldn't need. The villa sat isolated on a promontory overlooking the Adriatic, lights blazing, music drifting on the wind, a party. Security was light, 3 guards visible, Kozlov's arrogance working in their favor. Cade led Mara to a position 820 meters from the villa's main terrace. Rocky outcrop, good concealment, clear sightline. They set up in silence. Cade with the spotting scope. Mara with the rifle. Wind is 5 knots, east to west, temperature 62 degrees, humidity 70%, barometric pressure stable. Cade's voice was calm, clinical. Target will appear on the terrace in approximately 15 minutes. You'll have a 3-minute window, maybe less. Mara settled into position, found the terrace in her scope, watched people moving inside, laughing, drinking, oblivious. What if there's someone with him, she asked. Then you wait for separation, or you scrub the mission. Your call. My call. You're the trigger. I'm just the calculator. Minutes crawled. Mara's heart rate climbed. She forced it down, breathed, focused. Then he appeared. Dmitry Kozlov stepped onto the terrace. Alone, cigarette in hand, looking out at the sea like he owned it. Target acquired, Cade murmured. Range 823 meters, wind steady, no obstacles. You have the shot. Mara centered the reticle on Kozlov's chest. Her finger found the trigger, took up the slack. She thought about Anya, about the girl in the drainage ditch, about 40 families who'd never get answers. Then she thought about Cross, about the betrayal in his eyes, about who she'd been yesterday and who she was becoming. Her finger tightened. Kozlov took a drag, exhaled smoke. Send it, Cade whispered. Mara fired. The rifle bucked. Suppressor muted the report to a sharp crack that wouldn't carry over the party music. Through the scope, she saw Kozlov's head snap back, saw him drop, saw the cigarette fall from his fingers and scatter sparks on the stone. Shouts erupted. People rushed onto the terrace. Guards appeared, weapons drawn, searching for a threat they couldn't locate. Hit confirmed, Cade said. Exfil. Now. They moved, fast and low, reached the boat in 12 minutes, pushed off. The villa's lights receded, then disappeared. Mara sat in the boat, rifle across her lap, hands shaking, not from cold, from the realization of what she'd just done. She'd killed a man, not in self-defense, not in combat, in cold blood. From a distance, because someone told her he deserved it. And the worst part, the part that terrified her most, was that she didn't feel guilty. She felt powerful. Cade sat beside her, said nothing, just watched her process. Accept. Evolve. Back at the compound, Volkov was waiting. Kozlov's dead, confirmed, good work. Mara handed over the rifle, mechanically, like it was someone else's hands moving. How do you feel? Volkov asked. Mara met her eyes. I don't know yet. Fair enough, Volkov gestured. Debrief in 1 hour, then rest. You've earned it. Mara walked to her room, sat on the cot, stared at her hands. These hands had fixed thousands of rifles, calibrated scopes, zeroed weapons. Now they'd killed. The door opened. Cade entered without knocking, sat down. First one's the hardest, he said. Does it get easier? No, you just get better at not thinking about it. Silence. Cross is looking for you, Cade continued. Volkov intercepted communications. He's called you a defector, a traitor. He's got orders to bring you back, dead or alive. Mara's stomach dropped. How long? Until he finds us? Days. Maybe hours if he gets lucky. Cade stood. Volkov wants to move the operation. New location. Severing trails. But there's a problem. What? Cross isn't working alone anymore. He's brought in someone. Someone who knows you. Knows how you think. Who? Cade pulled out a tablet, showed her surveillance footage. A woman, military gear, moving with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. Mara's blood went cold. She knew that walk, that posture. It was Sarah Chen, former Delta, psychological operations, the only person at Redstone who'd ever tried to befriend her, who'd sat with her during lunch once and asked about her life before the base. Mara had shut her down, kindly but firmly, because friendships meant questions, and questions meant risk. Now Sarah was hunting her. She'll know where I'd go, Mara said quietly. How I'd think. She's trained to predict behavior. Exactly. Which is why Volkov wants to use you as bait. Mara looked up sharply. What? Controlled exposure? Let Sarah find you. Let Cross mobilize. Then we eliminate the entire team. No witnesses. No pursuit. You're talking about killing American soldiers. I'm talking about survival. They're hunting you. What did you think would happen? Cade's voice was harder now. You chose this path. Now you walk it. All the way. Mara stood, paced. The walls felt like they were closing in. I can't kill Cross. I won't. Then he kills you. And probably everyone here. Those are the options. There has to be another way. There isn't. Not anymore. Cade moved to the door, stopped. You wanted to matter, Mara. Congratulations. Now people are willing to die to stop you. That's what mattering costs. He left. Mara sat alone in the dark, thinking, calculating, trying to find an angle that didn't end in blood. An hour later, Volkov summoned her. The briefing room was full. Every operator, every support asset, all eyes on Mara when she entered. Volkov stood at the head of the table. Cross will be here within 48 hours, maybe less. We have two choices. Rabbit and rebuild elsewhere, or stand and eliminate the threat permanently. Victor spoke up. We rabbit, they follow. We fight, we expose this location. Either way, we're compromised. Unless we make them think they won, Mara said. Everyone turned. Volkov tilted her head. Explain. Mara moved to the map. Cross wants me, not you, not Cade, me. So we give him what he wants. She pointed to a location 20 kilometers south. Abandoned checkpoint. Good sight lines. Isolated. I go there. Alone. Let him find me. And then? Victor asked. And then I talk to him. Make him understand why I left. What we're doing here. Give him a chance to walk away. He won't take it, Cade said. Maybe not. But if I can plant doubt, make him question his orders, it might buy us time. Volkov studied her. And if it doesn't? Mara's voice was steady. Then I do what needs to be done. Silence. Victor laughed, sharp, bitter. She's been operational for 72 hours, and she's already talking like a martyr. I like her. It's not martyrdom, Mara said. It's the only play that doesn't end with all of us dead or running forever. Volkov considered. If you do this, you go unarmed. You present as non-threatening. Make him believe you're surrendering. And when he gets close? Cade will be in Overwatch, 800 meters. If things go wrong, he takes the shot. Clean, fast, and we all disappear before anyone knows what happened. Mara's chest tightened. You're asking Cade to kill Cross. I'm asking him to protect you. If that means Cross dies, so be it. Mara looked at Cade, at the absolute calm in his face. You'd do that? Kill him? Cade met her eyes. I'd do worse to keep you alive. You're one of us now. That means something. The weight of it settled on Mara's shoulders. The bond. The commitment. The understanding that she'd traded one kind of invisibility for another. But this time, the people who saw her were willing to kill for her, and she for them. When? She asked Volkov. Tomorrow night. We leak your location through channels we know Cross monitors. He'll come, probably with Sarah and a small team, no more than 6. And if he brings more, Then we abort and you're back here in under 10 minutes. Mara nodded. All right, I'll do it. The next 24 hours were preparation, memorizing terrain, planning escape routes, Cade teaching her hand signals, how to communicate without words, how to stay alive when everything went wrong. The night came fast. Mara stood at the abandoned checkpoint as the sun set. Concrete barriers, rusted guard towers. The wind carried the smell of the sea. She was alone, unarmed, waiting. In her ear, Cade's voice. I'm in position, 800 meters northwest. I have you covered. You're not alone. But she felt alone, more alone than she'd ever been. Then headlights appeared. 2 vehicles, moving fast. They stopped 50 meters away. Doors opened. Cross emerged first. Tactical gear, rifle up. Then Sarah. Then 4 others Mara didn't recognize. Cross advanced, stopped 20 meters from her, close enough to talk, far enough to react. Mara, he said. His voice was hoarse, damaged. Don't move. I'm not armed, Cross. I don't care. You ran. You defected. You killed a civilian on foreign soil. That makes you enemy. Kozlov wasn't civilian. He was a monster. That wasn't your call to make. Mara took a step forward. Then whose was it? The courts that let him walk? The system that protected him? How many more had to die before someone did something? That's not how this works, and you know it. Then how does it work? Mara's voice rose. I was invisible, Cross. For 2 years I fixed weapons for people who never saw me, never asked my opinion, never cared if I existed. Then Volkov showed me I could matter, that I could make a difference. And you want me to give that up? Go back to being nothing? Cross's weapon wavered, just slightly. You were never nothing. Yes, I was. To everyone, including you. Mara's eyes burned, until I answered that question about the shot. Then suddenly I mattered, but only because I was useful. That's not respect, Cross. That's exploitation. Sarah spoke up. Mara, listen. Whatever Volkov told you, whatever she promised, it's manipulation. She's using you. Maybe, but at least she sees me. We see you, Cross said. His voice cracked. I see you. That's why I'm here. To bring you home. Home to what? A court-martial? Prison? You know that's where this ends. Better than dying for people who don't give a damn about you. They give more of a damn than anyone at Redstone ever did. Cross lowered his weapon, just an inch. Then prove it. Tell them to show themselves. Let's talk, all of us. Maybe we can find a way through this that doesn't end in blood. Mara's heart hammered. This was the moment, the choice. She could call Cade off, try to negotiate, maybe find peace, or she could accept that some paths only go one direction. I can't do that, she said quietly. Why not? Because you'd kill them, and I won't let that happen. Cross's face hardened. Then we're done talking. He raised his weapon. Sarah shouted, Cross, don't... A shot cracked across the distance. Cross went down. Not dead. Shoulder. Clean through. Cade's voice in Mara's ear. Move. Now. But Mara stood frozen, watching Cross clutch his shoulder, watching Sarah drop beside him, watching the other operators scatter, looking for the shooter. Another shot. One of the operators dropped. Leg hit. Mara, exfil now. Cade's voice was urgent, but she couldn't move, couldn't process what was happening. Sarah looked up, met her eyes across the distance, and in that moment, Mara saw something she'd never expected. Understanding. Not forgiveness. Not approval. But comprehension. Sarah understood why she'd run, why she'd chosen this. And that understanding was somehow worse than hatred, because it meant Mara had been right. She had been invisible. Until now. Mara turned. Ran. Into the darkness. Toward the extraction point. Behind her, voices shouted. Weapons fired. But Cade's suppressing shots kept them pinned. She reached the vehicle. Cade was already there, rifle stowed, engine running. Get in. She did. They drove. Fast. Away from the checkpoint. Away from Cross bleeding on the ground. Away from everything. You didn't kill him, Mara said. You asked me not to. I didn't ask, I just... I know what you meant. Cade's eyes stayed on the road. But understand this. Next time, I might not have that choice. And neither will you. They drove in silence. The compound appeared. They were home. Except it didn't feel like home. It felt like a prison she'd chosen. A cage where the door locked from the inside. Volkov was waiting. Cross survived. Yes, Cade said. Unfortunate. He'll be more motivated now. More dangerous. Good, Mara said. Both of them looked at her. She met their gazes. Let him come. Let him see what I've become. What he helped create by never seeing me in the first place. Volkov smiled. Now you're thinking like an operator. But Mara wasn't thinking like an operator. She was thinking like someone who'd finally realized the truth. Invisibility wasn't her weakness. It was her weapon. And she was done letting other people decide when to use it. The compound went on full alert within the hour. Guards doubled. Perimeter sensors activated. Everyone armed, everyone watching. Volkov moved through the corridors like a general preparing for siege, issuing orders in 3 languages, her calm exterior masking what Mara now recognized as calculation. Always calculating. Mara sat in the armory, field stripping her rifle for the 3rd time, hands moving automatically while her mind replayed the checkpoint, cross going down, Sarah's eyes, the understanding that felt like condemnation. Cade entered carrying a tactical tablet. Volkov wants you in the operations room. Why? Because Cross didn't go to a hospital. He went dark, and that means he's planning something. The operations room hummed with activity. Screens showed satellite feeds, intercepted communications, heat signatures from drones Mara hadn't known they had. Volkov stood at the center, studying a topographical map marked with red circles. Cross pulled his team out, she said without preamble. No medevac, no official report. He's operating outside normal channels now. Victor leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He's going rogue, coming for her directly. Or he's using himself as bait, the American woman, her name was Lauren, said. Draw us out. Make us commit to a fight. Volkov zoomed in on a location 30 kilometers northwest, an old Soviet listening post abandoned for decades. Our signals intelligence picked up encrypted traffic from this location. Short bursts. Military encryption. Cross's pattern. He wants us to know where he is, Mara said. Exactly. Volkov turned to her. The question is why? Mara studied the map, the terrain, the approaches. Because he knows I'll come. He's counting on it. Then we don't go, Cade said. We wait him out. Let him burn resources while we... While we what? Mara interrupted. Hide forever? Run every time he gets close? She looked at Volkov. You said I needed to decide what I was becoming. Well, I'm deciding. I'm done running. Volkov's expression was unreadable. You want to walk into an obvious trap. I want to end this, on my terms. Mara pointed at the listening post. He's there because he thinks I owe him answers, closure. Maybe he's right. And if he tries to take you, then you make sure he doesn't succeed. Mara met her eyes. But I don't think he will. I think he wants the truth, and I'm going to give it to him. Silence filled the room. Victor shook his head. This is insane. No, Volkov said slowly. It's tactical. Cross is emotional, wounded, operating outside his command structure. He's vulnerable, and vulnerable people make mistakes. She turned to Cade. You'll overwatch again. But this time, full team support. Exfil ready. Drones for real-time surveillance. If this is a trap, we spring it our way. Cade nodded. When? Tomorrow. Dawn. We want him tired. Off balance. Volkov looked at Mara. You're sure about this? Mara wasn't sure about anything anymore, but she was certain that running wouldn't solve the problem. It would just delay the inevitable. I'm sure. They moved out before sunrise. 3 vehicles, 12 operators, enough firepower to level a small building, but rules of engagement that prioritize stealth. Mara rode with Cade, watching the landscape shift from forest to rocky hills to the barren approach to the listening post. The structure loomed against the gray sky, a concrete tower bristling with rusted antenna arrays and satellite dishes that hadn't functioned in 30 years, perfect for an ambush. perfect for a final conversation. Cade's team deployed in a wide perimeter. Drones launched, silent and invisible. Mara could hear the tactical chatter in her earpiece. Heat signatures confirmed. 4 targets inside. Cross, Sarah. 2 others. Smaller than expected, Lauren noted. Either he's confident or desperate. Both, Mara said. She approached alone, hands visible. No weapon. The tower's entrance gaped like a mouth. Darkness inside. She stepped through. Her eyes adjusted. The interior was gutted. Concrete floors littered with debris. Graffiti on the walls, and in the center of what had once been a control room, Cross stood waiting. He looked worse than at the checkpoint. Shoulder bandaged, but the dressing was sloppy, stained. His face was pale, drawn, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "You came," he said. "You knew I would." Sarah emerged from the shadows to his left, rifle lowered but ready. The other 2 operators positioned themselves at exits, contained but not cornered. Cross gestured to an overturned chair. "Sit." "I'd rather stand." "I'd rather you sit." His voice carried command weight. The officer speaking, not the man. Mara sat. Cross remained standing, the power dynamic clear. "Why'd you do it?" he asked. "Why Kozlov?" "Because no one else would." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters." Mara met his gaze. 40 women, Cross. 40 that we know about. And he walked free because he had money and connections. The system didn't fail, it was bought. So yes, I killed him. And I'd do it again. Sarah spoke up. "You think you're dispensing justice. You're just replacing one broken system with another. At least this system works. Until it doesn't. Until someone decides you're the problem. Then what?" Sarah moved closer. "You think Volkov cares about justice? She's FSB. Former or not, she's running an assassination network, and you're her newest tool. Better a tool that's used than a person who's ignored." Cross's jaw tightened. "Is that what this is about? Feeling important?" "It's about mattering. There's a difference." "No, there isn't." Cross sat down heavily, pain crossing his face. "You think we didn't see you at Redstone? You think I didn't notice when you stayed late, came in early, ate alone? I saw you, Mara. We all did. We just didn't know how to reach you." The words hit harder than Mara expected. "You never tried." "Neither did you." Silence. The truth of it hung between them. "I came here to give you a choice," Cross said finally. "Come back. Face the consequences. Testify about Volkov's operation. Help us take her down. In exchange, I'll make sure the prosecution knows you cooperated. Reduce sentence, maybe even probation. And if I refuse, then this ends today, one way or another." Mara looked at Sarah, at the operators by the exits. "You're willing to die for that?" "Are you willing to kill us?" Sarah countered. The question hung in the air. Through her earpiece, Mara heard Cade's voice, quiet, controlled. 4 targets confirmed. You give the word, we terminate. All of them. 30 seconds. Mara's hand moved to her collar. The signal would be simple. Touch her neck twice. That's all it would take. Cross watched her hand. Understanding dawned. "You have Overwatch." "Of course." "How many?" "Enough." Cross smiled, bitter. "So we're both trapped. Perfect." "We don't have to be." Mara leaned forward. "You want Volkov? I'll give her to you. But not like this. Not with you going rogue and me playing executioner. We do this right. Legal. Public. So the truth actually matters." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Why would you betray them?" "Because I'm starting to realize something." Mara's voice was steady. "Volkov said I could matter by choosing who lives and dies. But that's just another kind of invisibility. I'm still just a tool, just pointed at different targets." She looked at Cross. "Maybe mattering means being seen for the choices I make, not the kills I execute." Cross studied her. "You're offering to turn informant." "I'm offering to tell the truth. About Kozlov. About the network. About everything. But in exchange, you stop hunting me like I'm the enemy. We're both after the same thing, justice. We're just using different methods." "Your method is murder." And yours is letting monsters walk free because the paperwork's hard. Mara stood. I'm not saying I'm right, Cross. I'm saying the system you're defending is broken. And if we work together, maybe we can actually fix it instead of just choosing which broken version to support. Cross was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out a phone. I'd need authorization, my chain of command, witness protection protocols, legal framework. You don't have chain of command anymore. You're rogue, remember? Then we both are. The words settled. Sarah stepped forward. This is insane. We can't trust her. Can't we? Cross looked at Mara. Really looked. She came here unarmed, knowing we could take her, knowing her people might kill us to protect her. That's not the move of someone who wants to stay hidden. Mara's earpiece crackled. Cade's voice, urgent. Mara, new contacts. 3 vehicles approaching from the south. Fast. Military configuration. She tensed. We've got company. Cross stood, wincing. How many? 3 vehicles. Unknown passengers. Mara's mind raced. Could be your backup, or Volkov's cleaning house. Sarah moved to the window. If she thinks you're turning, she'll eliminate everyone, including you. Through the earpiece. Vehicles stopping. 15 hostiles deploying, armed, moving toward the tower. Cade's team is outnumbered. Cross keyed his radio. All units, defensive positions. Prepare to engage. Mara grabbed his arm. Wait. If we fight, everyone dies. There's too many. Then what do you suggest? I talked to Volkov, directly. She'll kill you. Maybe. But if I can make her believe I'm still loyal, she might pull back. Give us time to figure this out. Sarah shook her head. You're gambling with all our lives. We're already gambling. At least this way we control the bet. Mara moved to the center of the room. Tell your people to hold fire. I'm going out there. Cross caught her shoulder. And if she doesn't believe you? Then Cade takes the shot, and you run while she's distracted. That's not a plan. That's suicide. It's the only play we have. Mara pulled free, walked toward the entrance. Behind her, Cross said quietly, For what it's worth, I did see you. At Redstone. I just didn't know what you needed. Mara stopped, didn't turn around. Neither did I. Until it was too late. She stepped outside. The vehicles had formed a perimeter. Operators in tactical gear, weapons trained on the tower. And standing in front, calm and immaculate despite the dust and early morning cold, was Volkov. Mara, she called out. I'm disappointed. Mara walked forward slowly. You're early. I'm cautious. I heard the entire conversation. Volkov tapped her ear. You thought I wouldn't bug you before sending you into a meeting with American military personnel? Mara's stomach dropped. Then you know that you were about to betray us? Yes. Volkov's voice was ice. After everything, after we gave you purpose, after Cade protected you, you were going to hand us over to make yourself feel better about killing one trafficker. That's not... Don't lie. I respect you too much for that. Volkov gestured. 2 operators moved forward. You're coming with us. Cross and his team will be eliminated, clean, fast, and you'll watch so you understand the consequences of divided loyalty. In her earpiece, Cade's voice, tight, controlled. I have a shot on Volkov. Say the word. But Mara didn't respond, because something wasn't right. Volkov was too confident, too exposed, standing in the open like she had nothing to fear. You're not going to kill them, Mara said. Volkov tilted her head. Oh? Because you need Cross alive, need him rogue, need him hunting us. It's what keeps your network sharp, keeps everyone motivated. The moment he's dead, we lose our external threat. And without that threat, we start looking inward, Cade's voice finished, not in her ear, out loud. Mara turned. Cade stood at the tower entrance, rifle pointed, not at Volkov's men, at Volkov. I wondered when you'd figure it out, he said to Mara. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Victor emerged from one of the vehicles. Rifle also raised, also pointed at Volkov. Lauren. 2 others. All turning, all aiming at the woman who'd recruited them. Volkov didn't move, didn't flinch. I see. A coup. How pedestrian. Cade stepped closer. Not a coup, a correction. You've been sloppy, Elena. That Kozlov contract. We traced the payment. It didn't come from a victim's family. It came from his competitor. You took money to eliminate business rivals and sold it to us as justice. Mara's world tilted. What? She's not running a justice network, Victor said. She's running a contract-killing service. Some targets deserve it, some don't. She just picks the ones that pay best and dresses them up with sob stories. Volkov's expression finally shifted. Calculation. Prove it. Cade tossed a tablet at Mara's feet. Bank transfers, email chains, communications between Volkov and clients. It's all there. She's been using us, using the idea of justice to turn us into weapons she can rent out. Mara picked up the tablet with shaking hands, started reading, saw the transactions, the cold negotiation of price per target, the complete absence of victim advocacy. You lied, Mara whispered, about everything. I gave you purpose, Volkov said. Something worth believing in. Does it matter if the details were curated? Yes, Mara's voice cracked. Because I killed for you. I became this because I thought... She couldn't finish, couldn't process the betrayal. Cross appeared in the doorway behind Cade, weapon raised. Nobody moves. We're all going to have a very long conversation, starting with full disclosure of every contract this network executed. Volkov laughed, cold, sharp. You think you're in control, Major? Look around. Mara did. Saw the positions. Saw Cade and Victor and the others with weapons on Volkov. Saw Cross and Sarah and their operators behind. Saw Volkov's remaining loyalists, maybe 5, maybe 6, uncertain, weapons wavering. Everyone's pointing guns, Volkov continued, but no one's willing to fire first, because the moment they do, this becomes a massacre. And massacres leave evidence, bodies, witnesses, everything you all claim to oppose. She was right. It was a standoff, perfect equilibrium of mutual destruction. So here's what happens, Volkov said. I walk away. You keep the tablet. Expose me if you want. I'll disappear. Build something new, and everyone lives. Except the people you'll keep killing, Sarah said. Better them than us. That's always been the calculus. Volkov took a step back. I'm leaving. Shoot me if you want your war. She turned, started walking toward the vehicles. No one fired. Because she was right. First shot meant total chaos, meant escalation, meant bodies that would need explaining. Mara watched Volkov reach the vehicle, watched her open the door, and realized something. Volkov had taught her to see patterns, to understand variables, to think like a sniper, to see the shot no one else saw. She's bluffing, Mara said. Everyone turned. She can't walk away, Mara continued, because we're not her only loose end. There are clients, paper trails, people she contracted with who can testify. If we expose her, they expose her. She's not leaving because she wants to. She's leaving because she has to clean up before we make the network public. Volkov paused, hand on the door. And that means, Mara said, voice strengthening, she's going to kill them. Every client, every witness, everyone who can link her to the contracts. She's going to burn it all down. And in that fire, more innocent people will die. Families of clients, associates, maybe hundreds. Volkov turned slowly. You can't prove that. I don't have to. You just proved it by not denying it. Mara stepped forward. You taught me to think 3 steps ahead, to see the end game. Well, I see it now. You walk away, people die. You stay. We can control the damage. Expose the network properly, legally. Save the people who don't deserve to burn for your mistakes. Volkov's mask finally cracked. Fury underneath. You self-righteous child. You think you're better than me? You killed Kozlov because I told you to. You're just as complicit. You're right. I am. Mara's voice was steady now, certain. Which is why I'm not walking away either. I'm going to face the consequences, testify, accept whatever punishment comes. Because that's what justice actually looks like. Not running, not hiding behind purpose, accountability. Silence. Cade lowered his rifle, looked at Mara. You mean that? Yes. Victor followed. Then Lauren. One by one, the operators lowered weapons. Not surrendering, choosing. Cross moved forward, slowly. Elena Volkov, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and about 50 other charges we'll figure out later. You have... Volkov's hand moved inside her jacket. 3 rifles snapped up. Don't, Cade said. But Volkov smiled, pulled out a phone, hit a button. I don't lose, she said. Explosions ripped through 2 of the vehicles. Fire bloomed, smoke filled the air. In the chaos, Volkov moved, fast, toward the 3rd vehicle. Door open, engine running, cross-fired, missed, Sarah fired, hit the door frame. Cade centered his reticle. Steady, perfect. No, Mara said. Let her go. What? Let her go. Mara was already moving, to the tablet, uploading files to a cloud server. She's right. We can't prove where she's going, what she'll do, but we can prove what she's already done. This data goes public. News organizations, law enforcement, international courts. She can run, but she can't hide. Not from this. Upload complete. Volkov's vehicle raced away, disappeared over a ridge. Silence settled over the aftermath. Fire crackled, wounded groaned, and Mara stood in the center of it all, holding a tablet that contained the truth. Cross approached. You just let her escape. No, I just made sure she can never stop running. Sarah checked the wounded. We need medevac, now. Cade stood beside Mara. You know what happens next? To us. To you. Yes. And you're okay with that? Mara looked at the burning vehicles. At Cross. At the operators who'd followed Volkov's lies because they wanted to matter. I'm tired of being invisible, she said. But I'm more tired of being someone I can't recognize, so yes, I'm okay with it. Cross keyed his radio. Command, this is Cross. I'm coming in. I have intelligence on an international assassination network, and I have witnesses willing to testify. Coordinates to follow. Request immediate extraction and legal support. Static. Then, confirm identity and authorization code. Cross provided both, then added, and I need witness protection protocols, multiple witnesses, priority classification. Acknowledged. Extraction inbound. ETA 40 minutes. He looked at Mara. You're really doing this? I don't have a choice, not anymore. Everyone has a choice. Then I'm choosing to be seen for exactly who I am, whatever that costs. 40 minutes later, helicopters descended. Medical teams, JAG officers, enough brass to court-martial half the base. Mara was searched, cuffed, read her rights. Cade and Victor and the others received the same treatment. All witnesses, all complicit, all willing to testify. As they loaded her into the helicopter, Mara caught sight of the listening post one last time, the place where she'd almost walked away, almost chosen safety. Sarah sat across from her in the helo. I still don't trust you. I know, but I believe you want to make this right. That's enough. The helicopter lifted. Below, the compound where she'd trained, the checkpoint where she'd confronted Cross, the landscape of her transformation, all of it shrinking, disappearing. In her pocket, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She looked. You think exposure will stop me. You think truth is a weapon, but I've been playing this game since before you were born. And invisible people don't stay hidden forever. They just learn to blend better. See you soon. EV. Mara showed Cross the message. He read it, jaw tightening. She's threatening you. No. Mara deleted the message. She's admitting I won, because the only reason she needs to threaten me is if she's scared. And Elena Volkov being scared means I finally matter. Is that what you wanted? Mara looked out the window at the mountains falling away beneath them. Thought about the maintenance bay, about being invisible, about the moment everything changed. No, she said finally. What I wanted was justice. What I got was complicated. But at least it's honest. And honesty is more than I had before. The helicopter flew toward whatever came next. Courts, testimony, consequences. The machinery of accountability that Mara had spent years avoiding and then months trying to replace. Now she was walking directly into it, visible, accountable, terrified, but not invisible anymore. And somewhere, in a safe house she'd never find, Elena Volkov was making calls, erasing trails, preparing her next move. Because some wars don't end with surrender. They end with both sides realizing the real enemy was never each other. It was the silence that let monsters thrive, and Mara had finally learned to break it. The interrogation room was smaller than Mara expected. Gray walls, metal table, two-way mirror that fooled no one. She'd been sitting here for 6 hours, different faces, same questions. Tell us about Volkov. Tell us about the network. Tell us about Kozlov. She answered everything. No lawyer, no deals, just truth. The JAG officer across from her, Commander Patricia Reeves, sharp-eyed and relentless, closed her folder. You understand what you're confessing to? Yes. First-degree murder, conspiracy, operating with a hostile foreign network. Yes. You could spend the rest of your life in prison. I know. Reeves studied her. Then why are you cooperating? Mara met her gaze. Because I'd rather be accountable than invisible. The commander's expression flickered, something almost like respect. We're done for now. You'll be transferred to a holding facility pending formal charges. 2 MPS escorted Mara through corridors that smelled like disinfectant and institutional coffee. Past holding cells where Cade sat silent, Victor paced, Lauren stared at the ceiling. They'd all chosen this. All accepted the cost. They locked Mara in a cell alone, 8 by 10 feet, cot, toilet, sink. She sat on the cot and waited. For what? She wasn't certain. Judgment? Punishment? Maybe just clarity. Hours passed, then days. She was questioned again and again, each session pulling more details, building the case not just against her but against the entire network. Names, locations, financial trails, everything she knew, she gave. On the 4th day, Cross visited. He looked better, shoulder properly bandaged, color back in his face. He sat across from her in the visitation room, separated by plexiglass and a telephone handset that crackled with static. How are you holding up? He asked. I've been worse. I doubt that. He shifted. I'm testifying tomorrow about what happened, what I saw, what you did. Good. It won't help you. My testimony makes your guilt clearer. That's the point. Cross was quiet. Then, why did you really do it? Not Kozlov. Everything after. The surrender, the cooperation. Mara thought about the maintenance bay, about fixing rifles for people who never saw her, about the moment in Volkov's compound when she'd felt powerful for the first time. Because power without accountability is just violence, she said, and I'd rather face consequences than become someone who can't recognize herself. Cross nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For not seeing you earlier, for not understanding what you needed. You're not responsible for my choices. No, but I'm responsible for the environment that pushed you toward them. He stood. Good luck in there. Cross? Mara waited until he looked back. Thank you for coming after me, for not giving up. He almost smiled. That's what we do for people who matter. The trial began 3 weeks later. Not military tribunal, civilian court. International jurisdiction because of the cross-border operations. The media coverage was relentless, every detail dissected. Former weapons tech turned assassin, shadow network, Russian connections. Mara sat in the defendant's box with Cade, Victor, and 4 others. The prosecution was methodical, ruthless. They presented evidence, witness testimony, financial records. The tablet data Mara had uploaded formed the backbone of their case. Kozlov's execution, documented, 3 other contracts the network had completed, all verified. The payments, the lies, the manipulation. Volkov's face appeared on screens throughout the courtroom. Interpol had issued warrants, 15 countries were searching, but she'd vanished completely. The defense tried to argue coercion, manipulation, diminished capacity. Mara refused to let them. When her attorney suggested she'd been brainwashed, Mara stood. That's not true. I made my choices. I knew what I was doing. I'm not a victim. I'm responsible. The judge, a stern woman named Harriet Chen, Raised an eyebrow. Ms. Voss, your attorney is trying to help you. I don't want help. I want accountability. You understand that could mean life in prison. Yes. Judge Chen studied her for a long moment. Proceed. Mara testified for 2 days. Every detail, every decision, the moment she boarded the helicopter, the training, the shot that killed Kozlov. She didn't minimize, didn't justify, just stated facts. The prosecutor was almost gentle. Ms. Voss, do you regret what you did? Yes and no. Explain. I regret killing. I regret being manipulated. I regret not seeing Volkov's lies sooner. Mara paused. But I don't regret choosing to matter, to be seen, even if I chose the wrong way to do it. You think there was a right way? I think there are systems that fail people. And when those systems fail, desperate people do desperate things. I'm not saying I was right. I'm saying I understand why I thought I was. And that scares me more than prison. The courtroom was silent. On the third day, Sarah Chen took the stand. She testified about Cross's pursuit, about the checkpoint confrontation, about Mara's choice to expose Volkov rather than protect the network. In your professional opinion, the prosecutor asked, was Ms. Voss acting under duress when she cooperated? No, Sarah said. She was acting under conscience. There's a difference. The defense cross-examined. But she'd been manipulated by Volkov. Isn't it possible she was still under psychological influence? Sarah looked directly at Mara. I've spent a decade in psychological operations. I know manipulation when I see it. What I saw from Ms. Voss wasn't manipulation. It was someone making a hard choice because it was right. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Evidence piled up. Testimonies accumulated. The prosecution painted Mara as a cold-blooded killer. The defense painted her as a victim of sophisticated manipulation. Neither was completely true. Neither was completely false. Judge Chen took 3 days to deliberate. When she returned, the courtroom was packed. Press, victims' families, military observers. Mara sat straight, hands folded, ready for whatever came. The court finds the defendant guilty on the following charges, Judge Chen began. She listed them. Murder, conspiracy. Every count that had been brought. Mara felt nothing, just acceptance. However, the judge continued, the court also recognizes unprecedented cooperation, full disclosure, and genuine remorse paired with acceptance of responsibility. Therefore, sentencing is as follows. 20 years, federal custody. Eligible for parole after 7, contingent on continued cooperation with ongoing investigations into the network and testimony in related cases. 20 years. Mara let it settle. She'd expected life. This was almost mercy. Additionally, Judge Chen said, the court is recommending Ms. Voss be placed in a facility where she can continue to provide expert analysis on long-range ballistics and weapons systems, not as a contractor, as part of her debt to society, to help prevent others from walking the path she chose. Mara's attorney leaned close. That's unusual. She's giving you purpose within your sentence. Purpose. The word that had started all of this, but this time it came with accountability, with visibility, with the understanding that mattering meant facing every consequence, not hiding from them. The judge banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. MPS moved to escort Mara out. She stood, turned, caught Cross's eye in the gallery. He nodded once. Respect. Sarah beside him did the same. And in that moment, Mara understood something fundamental. She'd wanted to be seen, wanted to matter, and now she was. But not because she'd killed, because she'd chosen truth over escape. The prison was federal, high security but not maximum. Mara had her own cell, access to a library, work detail in the facility's training program where she taught ballistics mathematics to law enforcement. Cade was in the same facility, different wing. They crossed paths sometimes in the yard. You doing all right? He asked during one encounter. Better than I expected. Yeah. He looked up at the sky. Weird how accountability feels lighter than freedom sometimes. Is that what this is? It's something. Maybe not redemption, but acknowledgement of who we are, what we did. He glanced at her. Volkov's still out there. I know. Doesn't that bother you? Every day. But I can't control that. I can only control what I do with what I know, and I'm doing it. Mara paused. Are you? Cade smiled faintly. Teaching tactical analysis to prison guards. Who would have thought? They walked in silence. Two people who'd chosen visibility over safety, who'd accepted that mattering came with cost. 18 months into her sentence, Mara was pulled from her cell. No explanation, just instructions to report to the warden's office. She arrived to find Commander Reeves waiting. Ms. Voss, sit. Mara sat. What is this? Reeves opened a folder. Interpol found Elena Volkov, or rather, someone found her for them. Anonymous tip. Precise location. Photos. Evidence of her new operation. Mara's pulse quickened. Where? Prague. Running the same game. New network, new clients, but sloppier. Desperate. Reeves slid a photo across the desk. Volkov caught on surveillance. Older, harder, but unmistakable. They raided the location 3 days ago, Reeves continued. Volkov resisted arrest. She didn't survive the encounter. The words hung in the air. Mara felt nothing, not satisfaction, not grief, just finality. The network's dismantled, Reeves said. Completely. Every client exposed. 15 arrests across 7 countries, all because of the data you provided, the testimony you gave. Is that why you're here? To tell me my cooperation worked? No, I'm here to tell you that your impact worked. Reeves pulled out another document. We've started a task force. International cooperation, focused on trafficking, war crimes, atrocities that slip through legal cracks. Legitimate, transparent, accountable. And we need consultants. People who understand how these networks operate, how they think. Mara understood immediately. You want me to help? From here, remotely. Analysis, pattern recognition. The kind of thinking that made you valuable to Volkov, but pointed at actual justice. Reeves met her eyes. It doesn't reduce your sentence, doesn't erase what you did, but it means your expertise helps catch people who deserve it, legally. Why offer this to me? Because you're one of the few people who understands both sides, the desperation that drives people outside the system, and the accountability that keeps the system from becoming what you ran toward. Reeves stood. Think about it. You have 72 hours. She left. Mara sat alone in the warden's office, staring at Volkov's photo, the woman who'd made her visible, who'd given her purpose, who'd lied about everything, and now she was gone. Not by Mara's hand, but because of Mara's choices. 3 days later, Mara agreed. The work was slow, methodical. She analyzed patterns, identified networks, provided expertise that helped law enforcement dismantle operations before they could harm more people. She did it from a cell, with full acknowledgement of her crimes, without glory or recognition. But it mattered, and that was enough. 5 years into her sentence, Mara received a visitor, Sarah Chen. In civilian clothes, no longer military. They sat across from each other in the visitation room. Sarah spoke first. I left the service, started working with the task force Reeves built. We've taken down 11 trafficking rings in the past year, prevented dozens of deaths, maybe more. That's good work. Your analysis helped with 4 of them. Mara nodded. I'm glad. Sarah leaned forward. I came to tell you something. I spent a long time hating what you did, what you became. But I've been thinking about why you ran, about what pushed you there. And I realized something. What? That systems don't fail by accident. They fail because people let them. Because it's easier to follow procedure than to ask if the procedure serves justice. Sarah's voice softened. You were wrong to kill, but you weren't wrong to be angry. And I'm sorry I didn't see that sooner. Mara felt something crack in her chest. Not grief. Release. Thank you, she said quietly. Sarah stood. Keep doing what you're doing. It matters. You matter, not because of what you can do with a rifle, because of what you choose to do with the truth. She left. Mara sat in the empty visitation room, feeling lighter than she had in years. 7 years into her sentence, Mara appeared before the parole board. They reviewed her record, her cooperation, her contributions to the task force, the lives saved because of her expertise. Ms. Voss, the board chair said, "You've served your time with remarkable consistency. Your cooperation has been unprecedented. Your remorse appears genuine. However, you took a life deliberately. How do we know you won't make that choice again?" Mara had prepared for this question for 7 years. "You don't," she said. "I can't promise I'll never make a wrong choice. I can only promise that if I do, I'll accept the consequences, that I'll be visible, accountable, that I won't hide behind purpose or justification or the idea that I know better than the systems designed to prevent people like me from deciding who lives and dies." That's not very reassuring? It's honest, and honesty is the only thing I have left that means anything. The board deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, the chair's expression was unreadable. "Parole granted, conditional. You'll remain under supervision. Continue work with the task force. Any violation results in immediate return to custody. Understood?" "Yes." Mara walked out of prison 3 weeks later into morning light that felt different than she remembered. Sharper, cleaner. Cross was waiting at the gate. Older now, gray at his temples, but the same steady presence. "Figured you could use a ride," he said. They drove in silence for a while. Then Cross spoke. "You know what you're going to do? Keep working, keep helping, keep proving I meant what I said about accountability." "And after that?" Mara looked out the window at the landscape rolling past. "I don't know. Maybe there is no after. Maybe this is just who I am now. Someone who made terrible choices and spends the rest of her life trying to balance the scale." That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also honest. And I'll take honest exhaustion over comfortable lies any day. Cross pulled into a parking lot, a small office building, unmarked. "This is the task force headquarters," he said. "Reeves is inside, waiting to set you up properly. Workspace, credentials, everything you need to keep doing the work you've been doing, but in person, part of the team." Mara stared at the building, at the promise of purpose that came with supervision, with accountability. "What if I mess up?" she asked. "Then we deal with it, together. That's what teams do." She got out of the car. Cross followed. They walked toward the entrance. Inside, Reeves greeted her. So did Sarah. And a dozen other people Mara didn't know, but who'd apparently been working with her analysis for years. "Welcome to the team," Reeves said. "Officially this time." They showed her to a desk, computer, files, work that needed doing, people who needed finding, justice that needed serving. Mara sat down, logged in, started reading. An hour later, Sarah brought coffee, set it on Mara's desk without a word, just acknowledgement. Mara looked up. "Thank you. You've earned it, finally." That night, Mara stood outside the office building, looking up at stars she hadn't seen without bars in the way for 7 years. She thought about the maintenance bay, about being invisible, about the moment she'd answered Cross's question, and everything changed. She thought about Kozlov, about the shot, about Volkov's lies and the network's collapse. She thought about all the ways she'd tried to matter, the wrong ways, the right ways, the ways that cost everything. And she understood something now that she hadn't before. Mattering wasn't about being seen by everyone. It was about being honest with yourself. About accepting that power came with responsibility, that visibility came with accountability, that choosing to act meant choosing to answer for those actions. She'd wanted to be more than background noise, more than invisible. And now she was. Not because she'd killed, because she'd confessed. Not because she'd run toward power, because she'd walked toward truth. Her phone buzzed, a case file, new network, new targets, people who needed stopping. Mara opened it, started analyzing, seeing patterns, understanding motivations, the skills Volkov had taught her, the precision Cade had refined, the accountability Cross had demanded. All of it pointed at actual justice now, legal, transparent, imperfect, but honest. She worked through the night, and when dawn came, she'd identified 3 key players, provided evidence, created a roadmap for arrests that would happen legally, properly. Reeves called. "Good work. Lives saved because you saw what others missed." Mara hung up, stared at the screen. Lives saved, not taken. Saved. She thought about Anya, about the girl in the drainage ditch who'd never get justice from Mara's bullet, but whose story had helped dismantle a network, whose name appeared in reports that led to real prosecutions, real consequences. Maybe that was redemption. Not erasing the sin, just balancing it, one honest choice at a time. Mara closed her laptop, walked out into morning air that tasted like freedom she'd earned instead of stolen. She passed people on the street, anonymous, unremarkable, but not invisible, not anymore. Because the most powerful shot she'd ever taken wasn't the one that killed Kozlov. It was the one she didn't take. On that roof, in that helicopter, every moment after when she could have run but chose truth instead. Restraint, accountability, visibility. That was power. And Mara Voss, former weapons tech, former assassin, current analyst, finally understood what it meant to matter. Not because everyone knew her name, because the people who counted knew she could be trusted. To tell the truth, to face consequences, to use her skills for something that actually served justice instead of pretending to. She walked back to the small apartment the task force had arranged. One room, clean, simple. On the table, a photo, the maintenance bay at Redstone, where it all started. She looked at it, at the person she'd been, invisible, safe, miserable. Then she looked at herself in the mirror, at the person she'd become, visible, accountable, complicated. Better wasn't the right word. More honest, maybe. More whole. And that was enough, because some people chase justice by burning everything down. Others achieve it by building something better from the ashes. Mara had tried both. Now she was doing the hardest thing of all, living with the consequences. Working within the system she'd once abandoned, proving every single day that the choice to matter could be made without sacrificing the truth. It wasn't redemption, it was responsibility. And responsibility, she'd learned, was the only power worth having. Because weapons in the hands of the invisible are just tools. Weapons in the hands of someone accountable? Those change the world. One honest choice at a time.